My name is Daniel Croft, and what I'm about to tell you is the reason I no longer live in my family's old house in upstate New York. This wasn't some shadowy figure in a graveyard. It was something that wore a familiar face. And it all started with a simple home renovation. After my father passed, the task of getting the house ready to sell fell to me. It was a beautiful, sprawling colonial, but old. My first project was the master bedroom, specifically the massive floor-to-ceiling mirror attached to the closet door. It was heavy, ornate, and according to my dad's old notes, it had been in the house since it was built in the 1920s. The first strange thing happened as I was prying it off the door. The metal clips were rusted and stubborn. I gave one a particularly hard yank with my crowbar, and as it finally gave way with a loud crack, I saw it. In the reflection, just for a split second, a man was standing directly behind me. I spun around, my heart hammering, crowbar raised. The room was empty. I chalked it up to a trick of the light and my own fatigue. A silhouette formed by the dust motes dancing in the late afternoon sun. I leaned the heavy mirror against the wall in the hallway, intending to take it to the dump later. That night, the noises started. Not the usual settling groans of an old house, but a soft, rhythmic scraping. It sounded like someone slowly dragging their fingernails across the other side of my bedroom door. I'd fling the door open, flashlight beam cutting through the dark hall, and find nothing. The mirror stood silently against the wall, reflecting only my own pale, worried face. The final straw that made me call my buddy, Mark, was the whispering. It was faint, almost inaudible, like a radio tuned to a dead station in another room. I couldn't make out words, but the cadence was unmistakably human. When Mark arrived, he was his usual skeptical self. Dust, drafts, and bad pizza, Danny. That's your ghost. But he agreed to stay over just to ease my mind. We set up camp in the living room with a couple of sleeping bags. Around 2 a.m., the scraping started again, louder this time, coming from the second-floor hallway. Mark heard it too. His joking demeanor vanished. We crept up the stairs, my flashlight in one hand, a baseball bat in the other. The hallway was empty. But as my light swept across the wall, we both saw it. The mirror was no longer leaning where I'd left it. It was now standing upright in the center of the hallway, facing us. And in its reflection, standing right where we were, was a man in old-fashioned clothes, his face a mask of grim satisfaction. We didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Mark, now a believer, helped me the next morning. We were going to destroy that mirror. I didn't care about its age or value anymore. I wrapped it in an old moving blanket, carried it out to the backyard, and set it on the grass. Mark handed me the sledgehammer. Don't think about it, man. Just do it. I took a deep breath, raised the hammer, and swung. The sound wasn't a shatter, but a deep, resonant thud as if I'd struck solid oak. A web of cracks spread across the glass beneath the blanket. And then, from within the house, we heard a tremendous crash. We ran inside to find that every cabinet door in the kitchen had flown open, their contents spilled across the floor. Shaken but determined, I went back outside, pulled the blanket off, and stared at the cracked surface. My own fractured reflection stared back, a dozen distorted versions of my terrified face. But as I watched, the cracks seemed to shift. They realigned, not into my face, but into the face of the man I'd seen in the reflection. His eyes, in a dozen broken shards, were all looking directly at me. A cold dread, colder than the autumn air, settled in my bones. I knew then we hadn't trapped it. We had set it free. That's when the real haunting began. It was no longer confined to reflections. I'd see him standing at the end of the hall, a solid, tangible presence. The temperature would plummet in whatever room I was in. The whispering was now a constant grating murmur just at the edge of my hearing, sometimes forming my name. Daniel. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. The house wasn't mine anymore, it was his. The worst was the mimicry. One evening, as I was frantically packing a bag to get to a hotel, my phone rang. It was my mother. I answered, relieved to hear a familiar voice. "Daniel? Honey, are you okay? You sound strange." I told her I was just tired, that the housework was getting to me. She paused, then said, "Well, I'm glad you're all right. I just got off the phone with you, and you were saying the most horrible, depressing things. You said you were giving up on the house and on everything." My blood ran cold. I hadn't called her. I hadn't spoken to her in days. It was using my voice. It was talking to the people I loved, wearing my identity like a suit. I knew I had to leave, right then. I grabbed my car keys and headed for the front door. As my hand touched the knob, every light in the house blew out with a series of pops, plunging me into darkness. From the living room, the old grandfather clock, which hadn't worked in years, began to chime midnight, over and over and over. And then I saw him. He was standing at the foot of the stairs, not as a reflection, but as a solid figure. He was tall, wearing a worn-out work shirt and trousers from a century ago. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. He took a step toward me. I fumbled with the deadbolt, my hands shaking uncontrollably. He took another step, and I could smell it now, the scent of old soil and decay. I finally yanked the door open and stumbled out into the driveway, gasping for air. I scrambled into my car, locked the doors, and sped away without looking back. I spent the next week in a motel, trying to figure out what to do. I couldn't sell the house to some unsuspecting family. I ended up hiring a team of contractors to simply clear the place out. I didn't go back inside. I gave them the keys and instructed them to throw everything away, no exceptions. A few days into the cleanout, the foreman called me. "Mr. Croft," he said, his voice uneasy, "we found something you should know about. In the wall behind where you said that old mirror was hanging, we found a skeleton. The police are here now. They say it's old, probably been there for decades." The official story is that it was a laborer who went missing during the house's original construction. They think he got trapped, but I know the truth. He didn't get trapped. He never left. He was anchored to that mirror, and when I broke it, I didn't destroy him. I just evicted him from his prison and let him take possession of the whole house. I signed the deed over to the bank. I don't know who owns it now or what they might be experiencing. All I know is that some reflections aren't just reflections. Sometimes they're windows, and sometimes the thing on the other side is just waiting for you to open them.